So I've gotten this piece of sheet metal. This is the metal I'll use for making the faceplate of the fan shroud, which is where the fan actually is centered in. I've determined the diameter of the fan, and of course left extra room for the fan to rotate without hitting or being impeded. So how do you make a circle if all you got is maybe a tech screw, a piece of wire, and a marker? Well, you take and determine the center of the sheet metal faceplate that you need, hook on the loop of the baling wire to one end, make another loop at the other end, and then draw the circle. I've got here a piece of scrap material, and just want to show a technique of how a penny can actually help you make a flange. It's kind of curious. Well, you take the penny and you determine how large of a flange you want. Let's say you want a 1/4 inch, maybe you want a 1/2 inch, maybe you want 1 inch, but usually it's somewhere around a 1/4 inch. And you lock the penny in the jaws of something like a needle nose type of vice grip. And then simply take your sheet material and start bending. You can see you're starting to form a flange, and you can't get any more consistent than a predetermined depth on the jaws of the needle nose pliers. And you just keep ringing it over and ringing it over until you've got the flange to the point that you like. The idea of using the penny, I mean, you use anything round. The idea of it being round, it will not lock up on the edge of the material. So the end result is this. This is the faceplate for the fan shroud, and with the 1/4 inch flange going all the way around it. So then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so faceplate is on, a few tech screws holding it together. Of course, make sure everything was squared, and now I invert this piece. And the next thing to be made are the individual pieces that are going to create the recess for the pipes that was previously spoken about. And I've got a little piece here that actually goes this in right here. I determined how deep, how wide the piece would have to be as far as the recess, and then you create a flange. This flange is an attachment flange that allows you to, it can easily be manipulated. I have the shrinker and expander tools to actually make the radiuses. If you don't have that, you can still take a piece of sheet metal and bend it into a 90-degree, and then just take tin snips and get the same effect. You can expand it, contract it, that type of thing, to make the radiuses. Once the radius is made, then you'll actually take another piece of chipboard, and they'll give you a determination of how the hoop would have to be made in order to connect to that, and just build from there. Alright, well, here's the first completed recessed hoop. I call it a hoop, U-shape, whatever you want to call it. And I got it attached to the faceplate. We're looking, of course, on the inside of the fan shroud. And now I just have to attach these points here to make it solid. And the idea of doing it this way, again, keeping it square is going to be the tricky part. So you make all of the assembly first, then assemble in the hoop, and that's when, after that's done, you can actually do the cutouts to the actual top of the plate to make the room for the recess.